Okay, another episode. This time we have a very special guest. Drove in all the way from Brooklyn. I was a big fan of yours before, but we'll get into that. But Felix Levine, welcome to the show.
Thank both of you guys for inviting me into your house. I'm very happy to meet you guys fully for the first time.
So how
Kyle's
I discovered,
a fanboy.
I'm a fanboy, legit.
Yeah.
I was nervous for this because
before you came over, he's like, I'm nervous. I was like, it's fine. I'm like, you'll be fine.
I'm more nervous to you guys. Like,
how I first discovered you is I had like a guilty pleasure for like a couple months. I didn't barely even told Caitlin, but I was like, I caught a couple of those like mob tube things, and I went down a fucking rabbit hole, and I was like obsessed with it for a couple of weeks, or maybe like a couple of months. But then I saw your interview with the time I saw you was with Michael Franzese, and I was like, this is amazing. This is like the best interview. And then I saw him on Vlad, and it was similar stuff, but and I was like, this dude's so good at interviewing people. Then I started watching your show with John A-Light. And then I feel like that kind of, you guys almost probably ran out of material, right? Because that has to happen with those type of guys.
So, well, first, thank you. That means a lot. And then, so I don't even know, like when I first started any of this, I was just like, to think that I've now like done a show with a former hitman for John Gotti Sr. is fucking insane. And I was like, 19, I think, when I first started, or 20. So, and then like the fact that him and I are like this now, and you know, when people sometimes they hear it, depends who you're talking to, but some people like tighten up. They're like, why are you friends with someone like that? Why are you even work with someone like that? Other people are like, yo, that's the coolest shit ever. But yeah, the mafia, I mean, we could talk all about that. The mafia like genre in general is fucking nuts. I can curse on this?
Yeah, of course.
Like it's just a sick world in a lot of ways. It's so interesting in a lot of ways. Like for me, the only reason I agreed to do it with John in the beginning is I just realized like, there's never going to be another opportunity to be around these kinds of people.
Because it's done.
It's done.
It's done.
It's done. It's a dying.
It's kind of sad.
That is kind of sad.
I want to bring back the mob.
I do. I feel like they seem like really nice guys. I'm like, I don't know. Just based off of movies.
The craziest part is that they, in a lot of ways, so I've met a fair amount of them at this point. They're all really nice.
Yeah.
And because they don't fuck with civilians. It's their own world.
Exactly.
Right?
I always explain this to people. They're like, how could you be friends with someone who killed someone, right? Okay, let me explain.
They don't count that.
Well, it's like you all subscribe to a game, and once
There's
you're
rules.
with rules, you don't touch women, you don't touch children, right? The rest is kill or be killed, kind of like in the fight game, right? So it's like, so for John, he's like, either I was gonna die or you're gonna die,
Wow.
and he was just better at doing that, right? So for me, it's like I'm not like, and again, I'm not like saying, oh, it's great to go and kill people, right? That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm saying is they all made a commitment to this life, and then that it's a game in essence, right? And so like, you know, it's kill or be killed, and it's treacherous, and at the end of the day, they all go to jail or die, or you know, and it's horrible for the families, and there's so many other things we can talk about with regards to that. But it's like, at the end of the day, no matter how you feel, it's interesting. And so that's
definitely
right. And so exactly like what you're saying about going down a rabbit hole, I did the same shit, and that's when I looked up Michael Franzese. That I saw the Vlad interview before I had him. I had I saw John. That's how I found John as well, actually. And I was like, this stuff is really fascinating. I want to talk to like the best of the best that are still alive. And then John and I kind of like hit it off, and he called me one day. He wanted to start a show, and he was like, hey, do you want to host? And I'm like,
whoa. That's intense.
I'm like, how do I explain to my mom that I'm gonna sit down next to a mobster? And my dad was like, what? And I was like, fuck. So
did they know about him?
They were just like, well, they knew I had him on my show, and then my dad was like, are you sure it's safe?
Yeah.
Like, dude, like what? If anything, I've never felt more safe in my life. You know what I mean? Like, so I was just like, this is.
Did you do the John show before Michael, or Michael Franzese was kind of your big?
Funny enough, I actually recorded both 4 days apart.
Oh wow!
I recorded John on a Monday, and then I flew to Newport Beach, California, to have Michael on a Friday. And I just remember I came back home, I think Saturday or Sunday, and I was like, what a week. You know, like I was like
definitely.
19 or 20, and I had just flown halfway across the country and back to interview on Monday a hitman for John Gotti, and then Friday, you know, very well-known mob boss or
They
however
all
you
seem
wanna
to
call it.
hate on Michael Franzese.
I
I think
mean,
because they're jealous, right?
Just don't look at the comments. I mean, you look at
Yeah.
comment section for John, there's hate. You look at comment section for Michael, there's hate. You look at Sammy. I mean, all of them have people that love them like they're God, and then people that hate them like they're the devil.
Right.
So,
But I feel like of all those guys, Michael is the only one that could kind of carry stuff on his own and is going to last a bit longer. Because other people
would
just are
say-
telling stories and they're going to run out.
I agree.
Where he's like breaking stuff down. I think he's a little smarter than the other guys.
I'd say so. It's interesting. Yes,
it
I
seems
think
to me.
John and Michael are like, for me, I always say, like, in terms of when people say street smarts, John is the first person I think of. I'm also closer to John.
Yeah.
But I have a very good relationship with Michael as well. Like, we'll text sometimes, just like very, cordial stuff. But they're both really smart in a lot of ways, and they like the way that
Maybe
John,
Michael's a bit polished.
maybe he's more polished, but John has like the rustic voice,
And
and John
charming for sure.
I mean, charming,
Very
for sure.
charming.
Like best looking
Mhm.
criminal you've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like,
for
I don't know if
sure.
you've seen his mugshots.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
I always show them to like my female friends. Like, yo, he's so I would have fucked him in jail. I'm like, all right, good, relax. So like,
super charming.
so like,
guy.
yeah, I mean, like charming as can be. And I mean, unbelievable stories.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I guess technically I don't know. Who has more interesting stories? Different. And I have respect for both of them. But it's always funny to see like the comment section on some of these videos, because some people are like, Felix, how could you ever sit next to such a horrible? I'm like, shut the
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right.
But they want to. But
they want to
watch it.
I'm like, thanks for watching. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
So I was watching all your stuff, and then I randomly one day I saw you with Randy Brown. I was like, wait, that's that dude from. And I was like, oh, he's in our world. Like, because, Randy's been on the show. He's a friend of ours.
okay, yeah. I mean, Randy's the best.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, I could probably connect with this guy
Yes.
somehow. Then you met Gregor, and it's just small world.
I know. Gregor, shout out to the best fisherman in the game. Have you gone fishing with him?
Gregor does not even fish.
Okay.
Wait,
well, now
really?
I
So
need.
he's a fraud fisherman.
Well,
No, he's
now
an
he is.
ex-retired fisherman. He's a mountaineer now.
Well, not even really. He's
No, he
more
went
like
today.
mountaineer, yeah, and like Legos.
Yeah,
he's
Legos,
actually got
Legos.
obsessed with
He's the
things.
funniest. Like, so I randomly I've met him at the gym once when I was training with Randy, and
Training with Randy?
well, let me rephrase training with Randy. I said, hey Randy, can I come and can you show me some
I was
stuff?
going to say, damn.
Because so my big issue is I talk shit whenever I'm like with fighters,
Yeah.
just because it's fun.
Yeah.
So I'm like, obviously you guys would murder me,
Mhm.
but it's kind of fun. But the thing with Randy is that he thinks it's also fun to actually hit me like
Yeah.
hard. So I'm like, we like step in the ring, and then Gregor comes and we start talking, and then randomly like I don't even know, Gregor and I connect. And Gregor's like the funniest like person. He'll like text me. He's like, "Guess what I just randomly." He'll be like, "Guess what I just did?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Just ran up like a mountain
Yeah.
in 45 minutes."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What a sick human!" Like
He
and-
does like extreme, whatever he's into. He
That
does
and
it to the
Legos.
extreme.
Yeah, he goes all
Remember,
in.
this was before I met him when he was into
Biking.
and he was like
With
had,
like a $30,000 bike.
Yeah, and he would
Bicycle.
would go up and down Long Island, and he was like on some app where all cyclists.
And he was
like,
number one.
He was like number one on it, and that was just like
Yeah.
what he was into, like on his off time.
no, he's like, I love that. He's just like a bundle of energy.
Yeah.
It's like the sweetest guy ever too.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Just
Yeah. He's like family to us.
Yeah.
that's what he
love
said. He
Gregor.
was like,
Yeah.
I love Serm and
Yeah.
Caitlin. Yeah. So I mean, I've only really known him a couple months, but yeah, in terms of the MMA world, like I love everything MMA related, UFC related. Like I love.
Have you ever trained?
No.
Because I've seen you have had John Anik, Laura Sanko.
I'm very close to
obviously
Laura.
Randy. Yeah.
So
So how'd you just reached out to them?
I had Alex Volkanovski during COVID. He was awesome.
You had Patty, right?
Patty.
Yeah.
Patty.
Wow, that's a big interview.
Yeah. Patty was awesome.
Was that how many fights in was that?
That was in November when he came for the MSG card. So it was right after he
Second
had
fight.
knocked out. No, I think it was right after he knocked out Vendramini.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think he was already obese, so it had been like a month.
Right.
He came to New York and he was already fat as fuck. And then we did, and it was 2 days I think before the MSG card.
That's great.
He makes me feel better about myself with how big he gets. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, good. I'm like, it's not that bad.
People always ask me like, what do I think about him fluctuating from 200 pounds to 155? What do you? I mean that.
I mean,
You
if
could-
he
like, you
does,
can go
it's
to,
just
like-
crazy because
It's
everyone
not
does, but
good.
he just looks so. And like the thing is, sometimes
looks
people,
so
if you gain it in your face, that's a like. Sometimes people are like, for me, when I like start to cut weight, they're like, you look so, I'm like, no, it's just like all my face.
Yeah.
Like, so then it like, you can
Yeah, but you
tell.
also don't let yourself go like 50 pounds over.
No, not 50, but I definitely get up there pretty good. But
yeah,
but he just like looks like, even most other fighters when they get big, they still kind of look athletic.
Right.
But he
No,
looks very average.
That's what I'm saying. If you saw Patty like out of fight camp on the street and you don't know MMA, you're just like, who is that like fat bloke?
I always
over
think
there?
like I'm too vain to ever do that. Like I have too much vanity. Like I always care what I look like.
Yeah,
Like, when I
yeah.
look in the mirror and I'm like feel like a little chubby, I'm like, fuck. I'll
Yeah.
like fast for a couple days.
Yeah, no, I don't think he gives
He
a
has no
fuck.
vanity.
Like when
Yeah.
he retires, he's gonna be obese.
Yeah.
But that's
Like
not
that's
good.
his goal.
That's not
Yeah,
good.
no, but but I love him because he's like he's a pure soul. Like he loves to eat. He loves to be with
Well, that's
his,
almost become his brand now.
Yeah,
for
So he
sure.
can't like not do
He'll
it.
probably
Talk-
get like
not
Pizza
talk-
Hut to sponsor him.
Oh,
yeah,
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 you
for
know.
sure. Any type of like,
McDonald's.
yeah.
Some just junk, you know.
I mean, he goes through it. He used to have my Shake like in the same day after a fight, Shake Shack, Dairy Queen.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's kind of like we used to train jujitsu with Gary Tonin, and he's like really big on the jujitsu scene. He fights in ONE FC, but
Yeah. Do you know Gary Tonin?
no.
he does not get. He's always like shredded, but he eats so bad. Like,
There's like a hashtag Gary Tonin diet.
And-
It's just like Five Guys and burgers.
But he's a big jujitsu guy.
yeah,
the best
and
in
he's
the
like,
world.
yeah, he's like shredded.
Yeah.
I think he only has like one loss in ONE FC. He was doing
Yeah,
pretty
he's
good
amazing.
there. Yeah, but
now
he-
I think he's cleaned it up a little, but because he dropped a weight class. But
Yeah.
forever he was just eating like burgers and fries,
Like gas station
and gas
food.
station like
What the
beef
fuck?
jerky would be like
Yeah.
a meal.
That shit always blows my mind.
and he's
Yeah.
like, but he was always
Shredded.
shredded.
Doesn't that annoy you guys? Like as like
Yes.
because you're like working your ass
Yes.
off, and then these people are like eating like shit, but like killing it.
Yeah, it's the worst.
So to get you had these people on your podcast like early.
Yeah, I had so I started my show when I was 19, my freshman year of college.
So who gave you the credibility to get Alexander Volkanovski
So I
Like-
guess no one really. It was more just,
or someone like that, Michael Franzese?
I always think about it as like some things are, and you guys know as well in your worlds as well, as just sometimes it's right time, right place, So like Volkanovski was during COVID, and during COVID I actually was able to get a lot. I had Mark Hunt. I had like a lot of like cool people that I don't think I would have would even be really on their phones or checking their emails or whatever it was. But everybody was home and trapped, so it was kind of like that was opportunistic. Michael Franzese, like I reached out to his agent, and then same with John. For me, I always viewed it as when I first started, I'm just like I was a college kid, freshman year.
Right.
So I'm like, and I didn't have a career behind me. I didn't have like
A natural
anything.
audience.
I
Like,
didn't have
we've
any-
only had a natural. You're our biggest like outside our circle. We've had a lot of guests, a lot of big fighters, and
Right.
stuff, but that's in our natural
Right.
audience.
It's funny to me though. I'm like, well, fighters. I'm like,
I don't
well, I
count
don't
the
know.
fighters.
I'm like, that's not a big deal. But
I mean, I love my
It
my fighters are my
is.
like it's my favorite because
Yeah.
it's like you guys. I have so much respect for you guys because you guys are just you guys are special human beings. Like you just are
Mhm.
just crazy. I think you guys
Yeah.
are all like clinically insane.
Yeah,
I always
probably
say that.
a little bit.
You have to be. I mean, you have to be to do what you guys do. But yeah, I think I don't know. I love the fighters. But going back to what I was saying is more. I just kind of like put my head down and I was like, you know what? If you get a few people, then it'll be like if I have one fighter, then another fighter is probably more likely to say
Mhm.
to want to come on. If I
social proof.
yeah, I mean, again, you just have to like get in the psychological headspace of someone who's receiving my email. It's like, well, okay, who's he had on? Like, do I want to be in that same cat? It sucks. It's stupid in a way,
Right.
but that's just kind of how
No, that's
higher
how it
profile
is.
people can
Yeah.
be. And then also I was just like I always wanted to get people that I was interested in. So like a lot of like there's a bunch of like quote unquote smaller name episodes that I've had of people that are just fascinating, and so those are some of my favorite episodes.
Like what kind of people?
I had this one guy named Demir, and and I found him because I don't know how I found him. He's a musician, and he was singing in the subway, and then he kind of popped off a little, and he was on America's Got Talent like once, but has like the most insane life story, like had his like him and his the mother of his child had a kid at like 17, then he went to he was first grew up in a foster care home, and he was telling me like stories about how his grandmother would like abuse him and like lock him, and just this crazy life.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's like the more like rewarding conversation than just someone because they're higher profile. So like those are the moments I love. I also I went to Chicago when I was really early on. I think it was like my 10th episode, and I interviewed this guy who had been wrongfully convicted of a murder. He was in jail for 35 years, the worst Chicago jail in Illinois.
God.
Those are great interviews that
And
Vlad does. Those long time jail guys.
Exactly. I mean, those people, like he was telling. This is a guy who was in jail from like 28
That's
to
fascinating.
65.
Because then it's
Oh
like
my
you get
God.
out and you've never seen like the internet.
Oh
You've
my God,
never seen a
Sometimes they want to
phone.
go back because they're like, I don't know how to
Exactly.
function.
And it's like, and he was like in literally the worst jail in Chicago, and he's telling me stories like when he came out, like he saw a phone, he's like, I don't know what this is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you see the sunlight, you don't like your eyes can't adjust. Like so many,
That's
stuff like
fascinating
that.
shit.
I'm always like, this is unbelievable.
Because that's like putting someone in like a time capsule. Basically.
It's just it's so. I think the stuff that fascinates me the most is always the stuff that's farthest away from my life.
I completely agree.
Right?
Because you can't relate to
'Cause
it.
I can't relate to it.
It's
Yeah.
like a movie.
Maybe that's also why I love the fighters as well, is because like I never grew up with a fighting background or any of that. Like I played competitive tennis, but that's way different than fighting. So like
Actually, it's similar. It's an individual
exactly.
sport
So there's
and that
there's a
mental
psychological
aspect.
yes, there's a psychological aspect there, but the the
That's
fighting.
probably why
and
you
the
have more
war-
of an appreciation for it because you
Exactly.
know that.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I think what you're saying, is the people that are the mobsters. I didn't grow up as a mobster, so maybe that's why I was inclined to interview them if I could.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's cool too, like you were saying with the musician, like singing on the subway. That's someone you just walk by. In New York, you see that all the time. You walk by and it makes you realize you're like, oh my God, like every single person
They got a
has
story.
a story.
Exactly. Like I mean, I grew up in the city. I went to school. I had to take the subway every single day for 15 years. So it's like, and I walked by 10,000 of these people singing in the subway.
Yeah. You don't
And
even like look at them.
You don't even look right, and then but like now, if I'm in the subway, like I'll look at it. You start thinking like, damn, like I'm sure this girl or girl or guy has a really interesting. There's much more than just like them playing an instrument in the subway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's humbling in a way.
I need to apologize because I listened to your solo episode, like for prepping.
Yeah.
But I shook your hand when you came here.
Oh no.
Well,
shouldn't have
I was
done
like,
that.
I'm not
No.
shaking his hand, and you came in for the hug.
didn't
I was
know.
like,
I was like, oh, this dude's
No.
really OC. I forgot until
No.
afterwards.
That's so funny. No, I always it's always same thing we were saying. Like when people listen, I'm like, yo, fuck, like I actually said that.
yeah.
No,
And then you're like, oh yeah, I
it's
forgot
different.
you know that about me now.
It's like it's the OCD is. Any you OCD? Anyone here?
I wish.
I'm opposite.
I
of
wish I
OCD.
was.
No, I mean OCD is like so many different.
Yeah.
So many different. But no, I don't have. It's.
I feel like I wanted to be when they had the True Life. You're younger, but MTV, they always used to have the doc. It was like before documentaries. They would do like MTV True Life. I'm whatever. It was like True Life. I have OCD, and that was like the first
I
time
used to like
anyone
those
knew what it
shows.
was.
Yeah, no.
And it was like the one girl was like super hot, and she like had OCD, and then everyone's like, oh, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, people
Like,
are probably fetishizing it.
yeah.
Hot girl with OCD.
Well, I kind of think people do fetishize stuff like that. It's same with
Sometimes.
anxiety too.
Right.
Anxiety,
I agree.
Kids
I
like
agree.
your age
I-
or Zane.
man, I
Dude,
know.
that's
like,
your
they
whole
love
generation.
Anxiety.
I
I have
know.
anxiety.
I agree. I think it's.
I feel like we
for
sound
me-
like our parents now. Like,
No, but I
that-
think it's-
that's not
I-
a thing.
I almost feel like that's why I always tell people like my generation, in a lot of ways, I think is very soft. You
Mhm.
know, and. Because I was thinking, it's just like there's some people that actually have like true anxiety and
course.
depression.
It sucks for
And I think
them.
it's disrespectful to them when you're because like we forget that being nervous is still like a feeling, or being
Right.
sad. Like
Right.
everybody's sad sometimes. Like you can be depressed for moments, but like that's why I never try to like use like I'm anxious or I'm
Mhm.
depressed because like there are people that actually like
Those are
suffer.
clinical terms.
Those are like clinical terms. So
Yeah.
like let's not throw it around like the way
Like
that
sad
I say
and
like
depression is very sad is a reaction to something.
exactly.
Where depression is a medical condition, like you're low in serotonin, low in
Exactly.
dopamine.
So this is the issue with my generation.
Yeah. How do you like being your age? I don't know. I just feel like you're so mature. Like, how do you hang out with like college kids your age?
I mean, look,
I don't know. I'm like, I guess I'm older and I just think of it all the same. Same as like, I mean, Zane's in college too. And I'm like, wait, you're normal. I'm like, how do you I'm like, oh, maybe not all
I
college
mean, there's
kids
there's a lot of great college kids. There's a lot of but I do think like this. We're a very like complainy generation, you
Mhm.
know, like.
I hate that.
I hate that too.
Yeah.
It really irks the shit out of me. So, but you know, there's a lot, but it's funny. In that, there's also a lot of people, and those are, I guess, a lot of my friends as well, that are like, they very much see that as well. So they're kind of like, it's, you know, when you see something, you want to do the reverse. Of something you don't like, you want to do the reverse. So it's like, a lot of my friends, we like kind of can see that we're a complaining generation. So because of that,
You wanna fight it.
we're not when we fight that.
So you went to University of Boston?
I went to
Berkeley
UC
first?
Santa Barbara
Or Santa
first
Barbara?
for a year, and then I transferred for sophomore year to Boston University
And you got a degree in what?
in from the business school, Question
Business
School of
school.
Business and business law.
Yeah, because it seems
whatever
like
that
a lot of people are now like just want to be like content creators and just go all in on that and be like fuck college. But now you almost have like the best of both worlds,
Right.
because you're putting out so much good content, but you also have like a legit degree.
Yeah.
So that you're gonna probably, I feel like in 5 years we're gonna be like we had Vlad on.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna be like
Thank
that.
you.
I really do think
He
that.
says that all the time.
I really
like,
do.
That's
Your
sweet.
ability
I
to.
appreciate
he's like,
that.
I know he's
interview
gonna blow
people,
up. He's gonna
We're
blow
gonna look
up.
back
So
at this and
sweet.
be like, oh my god, remember we had that dude on?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
and like seriously, that means a lot. I
Do you
try
like
to
that
just
Vlad stuff?
I think we got to see his face. You know what I mean?
I know what he looks like.
You know what he looks like?
Yeah, he's just really got a big beard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was like his whole shindig was that he
No,
doesn't
no,
like.
you could look him
Oh,
up.
really? That's
Yeah.
what I always thought for a
Like
long
you
time.
went in the rabbit hole, you're googling them and stuff.
No, I've seen like clips of him.
I think he's
too.
I think he's really good. It's funny because the people that I know, like John and Michael, like when I asked them, they've said different things, right? Like,
But he pays those guys to be.
yeah,
on.
and
He's got a big
lot.
budget.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
a big budget, and I mean, I think he does. Like, hey, he gets a lot of really fascinating content, and
Yeah.
I think he does a really good job asking the right questions.
And finding these people.
Finding these people. No, I mean, look, he does great. I think even like fuck, what's his name? What's the value taming guy's name? David Bet.
Oh, Patrick Bet David.
Patrick.
He's
Bet
great
David.
too.
He's great. He's I haven't met him, but he's really good. So like, yes, those are people that I have a ton of respect for. As for myself, like, I don't know if that's necessarily, I don't know if I want to only do that like my whole life. Like, there's a lot of other things I want to do.
Like what?
I love sports, so I think like commentary was always something that I've thought about. But like MMA, I don't know if I could do MMA commentary. Also, because like
Tough to get in, right?
tough to get in, and also I'm like friends with them. Like Laura, Brendan, and John have all become.
Well, that's a good thing.
That's good.
It's
yeah.
good, but at the same time, I don't want to. I can't act like I can currently compete with them. But if I were at that level, then it's like I don't even, because especially like someone like Laura, right, who I'm so happy is getting more like
Yeah, she's
spots
great.
as doing color on
Contender Series.
on Contender Series, and then hopefully sometime soon on fight nights and on real cards as well. But like I would never want to go again, like, because in a way, I mean, they're all very nice to each other, like that trio of Brendan, Laura, John, Dan Hardy. No, not Dan Hardy. Who's the other guy? John Gooden, who does the broad cards. But at the same time, like if I like, there's only certain limited spots, so that's kind of tough.
There's funny because I'd be like, my first reaction's like, no, they like everyone in the UFC, like all the employees and stuff, everyone's like a big family. But without like saying names, one broadcaster I was around, and they were like talking about another broadcaster, like, well, I get paid more than them. And I remember as soon as they said that, I was like, oh, I don't like you, just because I'm like, it was a room of 3 people. First of all, who cares?
I've heard. I mean, off air, I can tell you a few things, but it's
right
like,
away. I already was kind of like with the
It's-
person, but as soon as they said that, I was like, oh, I don't like you. I don't need to
it's
know anything
competitive.
else about you.
It's competitive.
Yeah. How do you feel about watching like other? If you're such a UFC fan, how do you feel about watching other organizations like Bellator or PFL?
I like it.
Dude, it
No.
doesn't even compare to me. Like,
It doesn't
really
compare.
makes you appreciate how important
So
the
good.
commentary and production is.
It's
because I love MMA. Like, I watch 6 hours. I'll watch a full card
Exactly,
tonight.
of course.
But like, if a Bellator card's on, it doesn't matter to me how good the fights. I almost can't watch it.
Oh, really?
It's that.
The
it's that bad.
commentating for
it's
Bellator is
so
really bad.
Yeah, it's
It's very gimmicky
It's
and
so
like
hokey.
and I respect John McCarthy as a human being. I'm
Well,
not
yeah.
a huge fan of like commentary wise. I think more Ronaldo is he's kind of a legend in his own right.
Yeah.
But I do think like sometimes
It's dated. It feels dated.
it's a little. He has such a cool voice though.
Cool voice.
Like, but I agree. Like sometimes you're watching a card and a guy's like clearly up 2-0 and they're like, oh, it's like 2-0 the other way or
Yeah.
1-1. It's
Yeah.
like, bro, it's like, dude, like come on, like it's so obvious. Like
Right.
there's some stuff like that, and then
are
that
you-
gives
maybe
them
are
less,
you not paying
it
attention?
gives them like less legitimacy, and that's the stuff like that's why you like people like Anik and Brendan and Laura, like they're so
good.
well, they're
They're
so
all
good that
so
they make
good.
everyone else seem
Like
like
John
they're not-
Anik is like insane.
I mean, like, and that's funny because when I had John, it was like 2019, 2020. And at that point, like people respect, like he's been respected for a very long time.
The COVID, they all blew up. Just because UFC blew up.
UFC blew up. That's funny. You feel like UFC blew up during COVID?
Oh my God. It's
like
not
even close.
Their Instagram like doubled in followers.
Interesting.
Yeah, like since COVID, it is before I would help people, even in New York, New Jersey, where MMA is very popular. If someone's like, what do you do? I'm like, most of the time they didn't know. If I said MMA, they didn't know what it was. Now people like are coming up to me and I'll get recognized, not because like I've been in it long, just because they watch, more people are watching it. Like even
we've had some big fights too. So
yeah, but even I think a lot of people that aren't into it, even like young girls are watching it because they're at a party and all the guys are watching it. Then they watch the girl fight.
I agree. I think I definitely Now that I think about it,
I think Connor started it, and then COVID was huge.
And then I think, Connor, Khabib. I think also like the betting side definitely helped.
But that was all around the same time.
Exactly.
But like the COVID, I always say is the COVID was like the Forrest Gump, like Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. Like all the boats sunk except for Bubba Gump. And
there's nothing else to watch, and then
they were the only show in town.
And then people started realizing, shit, this stuff is fucking nuts.
Yeah, like you could even tell like more celebrities are watching it. That was big for it.
And then once it becomes cool, then everyone's like, oh, if the Kardashians are watching, then I want to.
Like before COVID, it would be like the same like 3 or 4 celebrities at every event.
It's like Tom
now
Brady
it's like you see like TikTokers there that are like they might not even like it, but they're like, oh, it's cool to be there.
No, I know.
So that's like getting to the point where boxing used to be.
Yeah.
Where it's like an event to go to.
But I always feel that UFC does every decision they make is like right. I know I have people to hate on the UFC about fighters' pay and this and that, but the reason it's so good is because every decision they make is sick. Like they had the one commentator for a while they hired that Jimmy Smith, and I was like, I don't like him. I just didn't feel. I was like, he doesn't seem to fit in. And he was there for like 6 months.
That's all right. I kind of didn't realize that he's not there.
You can't really talk shit on them. They talk fighters, but everything they do, like how they saved this card this weekend,
unbelievable.
How insane is that?
Way better card now.
It's so much better.
Way better. No, it's funny. I met Hunter Campbell a year ago, last year, and I sat and I talked to him for about 20-30 minutes, and it was what people don't realize is like Dana. So Dana and Hunter are best friends, and Dana is like the public figure for the UFC, but Hunter
Campbell's big time.
When I sign my contract for a fight, it's Hunter's name, not Dana's.
It's Hunter, and Hunter, you know, you depending on who you ask, like he's the one who runs the show, you know, and when I was talking to him, I'm like, holy, now you understand why this company is what it is. You know what I mean? He's just so like people can say whatever they want about fighter pay, but at the end of the day, the people running it are just extremely smart. Like they know what they're doing. When you get there,
the itinerary, it's like to the minute. It's like 9:17. Load the plane.
You've been in the headquarters, like but like the PI and then the headquarters, like the actual. I mean, it's gorgeous. Like it's so well run. Like they all have like their assistants and like everything is organized. They're on time. Like I mean, I was just so impressed. It was. Like that's why I love going to the Apex for fights. It's a cool experience as a fan.
Really cool.
I like it. I think
she wishes every fight
I
was
wish all
at
my
Apex.
fights were at Apex.
Really?
I love it. I just like
the smaller cage.
Not even that. I think the whole week it's just a different vibe.
Easy.
It's just easier. It feels like, especially now, like during the 2020, I fought like 5 times in 13 months. So I got a lot of experience with there, but
it was all at the Apex there?
Almost all of them. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just I feel comfortable with all the employees there. Right. Where you know when you see some fighters retire and they're like everyone at the UFC. I'm like, no, the fighters really mean that. Yeah. There's like I know them so well, and especially when you're during COVID, you're in quarantine. It was such a weird time. Like you're in quarantine, and like I remember the first fight I fought was April 2020, and I was oh okay, like. Whatever, I'm going. And I remember getting to the airport and being like, wait, is this not a good idea? There's no one in JFK airport. No. And people are like, you're flying? I'm like, well, they're having
I remember that. That was when people were still like actually scared of COVID.
Like, were you allowed to go with
I didn't know. It was the first fight I didn't go. I missed like 4 or 5 of her fights.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, no, because I was never in her corner until very recently. The last 2 fights I've been in the corner. If I was in the corner, I could have went.
Yeah.
How stressed are you when you're in the corner?
Not at all in the corner,
really?
But when I'm not in the corner, I'm losing my mind.
Oh, really?
Like pacing back and forth.
That's so interesting.
In the corner, I'm not even remotely nervous, not even at all. But if I'm watching, I'm like throwing up.
If my wife was fighting, I'd be
in the corner. You can't
so
be.
stressed.
You can't be in the corner.
Oh, that's true. Because then it also would probably like rub off on you.
Can't.
And be like, why are you nervous?
Yeah,
well,
you can't
I'm.
But
not,
at home, I'm like throwing up.
Oh yeah.
If I'm
not to like
on
speak
TV.
for you, but if you're in the corner, you're in the warm up room, so you kind of it's like gradually builds up, not just she's on TV. There you go.
Yeah. No,
right?
I would.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, but have you been to her fights like when you're present but not in the corner, like in the crowd?
Yeah.
Lots,
Is that, are you nervous? Just as nervous there?
Yeah, but the worst is watching
home,
on TV at home. Yeah.
Which was a lot of them.
A lot of them.
Not
5 or
So they only let you
bring
bring your cornerman. Or
Yeah.
like your
But the
couple
last
coaches.
two, I was in the corner. But I think we could have. Oh no, we still couldn't have.
Because I remember the one like 2 fights ago, it was at Apex and they started having people in there. I remember I fought and I looked around. I'm like, there's like people serving beer here. I'm like, I can't get I'm
It's
on the main
awesome.
card. I can't get my mom and dad to come in.
No, that's crazy. They don't like let any of the fucking family members or anything. Like,
So the last fight I was on the main card and I go, or 2 fights ago, whatever. And I was like, hey, I know we don't get tickets. I'm like, can I just get 1 ticket for my husband? Nope. I was like, oh, okay.
So
I mean,
crazy.
it's my like 14th UFC fight. #1 contender. I was like, just 1 ticket. And then my one cornerman ended up getting COVID, couldn't come. So then he was coming anyway. So we put him in the corner and then I'm like, it worked out. But
I
yeah.
don't understand. And there's like, sometimes there'll be like empty seats.
Oh, definitely.
And I'm like, it drives me nuts.
Or during Apex, we went to one of the fights and
Yeah, that was
I'm
fun.
like, yo, I'm watching some fighters come out and I see like their group of like 4 people, like, woo. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, but whatever. But
it's cool.
I like fighting at Apex better just because it's like, all right, we're there, business. I know
It
where
feels more
everything
like
is.
Like
yeah.
business in and out.
Yeah. The only thing that sucks is right after the fight when you're like, okay, cool. And then you go back to your hotel and you're like, oh, this is just quiet.
Right.
And then everyone, like me and all the
not
cornermen, we're like, we've been doing this for 5 days already.
Okay, but you prefer like fighting in front of fans in general, though, no?
It doesn't
Not really.
matter. I'm not like, I don't like it.
You get energized, no? No, not really.
Mm-mm.
That's so interesting. Some people do.
Yeah, some people. I remember when I fought for the title, everyone's like, just be.
Where was that? Was that Texas?
Yeah,
Austin,
Texas.
right?
Houston.
Houston. They were like, just be prepared, because being on a pay-per-view card at like the co-main event, they're like, you might not be able to hear the corner, and I can always hear my corner. Everything they say, like I can hear them almost like talking to each other. Sometimes I think I space out a little too much. Sometimes if we're near I can hear the commentators, even when there's a crowd. And there I was like, I could hear everything. I think it's just like when we're down here,
right.
I didn't notice the difference. I think I'm so like focused.
That's interesting.
But I don't know. I'm not someone like, even when I walk out, I'm not like looking around and like feeling the energy. I'm like, don't trip, just get in there. I want to get going.
Yeah.
So I think like for Apex is just a little bit like easier.
So aside from the commentating end of it, another way to get in it would be like an agent. You'd probably be a good agent.
I would. Yeah, I would.
You're
You know,
so
it's
good
funny.
at,
I was
communicating.
Thank you. No, I was actually. I just texted. Do you know Dave Fish?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
Are you a Paradigm?
MMA lawyer.
MMA lawyer.
Yeah.
I used to, when I was a kid, I grew up training at Tiger Showman's. And
Oh, there
he's
you go.
from there, yeah.
Exactly. So so him and I are friends. And I called him the other day because right now I'm trying to like figure out some of my next steps. So I'm trying to hop on a call and see. I think agent would be fun. Commentary. I feel comfortable in front of a mic. I like being busy. I like doing a lot of different things.
I'm the
I love
same way.
sport. So it's like I go crazy when I'm not doing something. So I'd love to get my hands wet in like a couple different, sectors. But I just graduated, so I want to give myself a few months to figure it out and then just kind of put my head down and grind and see what opportunities come. But I'm a believer like if when you work hard, things come.
Yeah,
eventually.
just like especially as how you like send out all the emails to get guests.
Yep.
That's like would be like an avenue you could do to get sponsorships.
Yeah, and
that's what agents don't do
right
for the most part now.
No.
They're like, it's not worth it. But if you were to hammer that and showed that you could get sponsors, then you'd be like, oh, I'm
that's
going
interesting.
with him.
Yeah. Yeah,
no, it's the same thing.
They don't do that.
Exactly, it's the same thing, and that's really what I did in the beginning. I was literally like, just like
you said, 100 emails to get one guest.
That again,
the same with sponsorship, but that would be dollars.
Same thing. So it's like, and honestly, that's something that I'm trying to like tap back into of what I used to do like really early on when I first started, because I think the issue is like when you progress, then you kind of stray away from what got you there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for me, like, I remember like staying up till 3 a.m. like every night for months and months, just trying to grind, sending emails of people like I knew weren't going to respond. And it was like, I knew eventually they were, or like it was going to hit, but you know, it could get kind of demoralizing when you know you're going to get nothing. But then as things started coming my way, I feel like I did less of that. So what I'm trying to do now is do more. Like, why would that worked? And in reality, it worked. It was more work, but,
I mean, for people to seek you out, there's only a couple of podcasts like that. Like people want to be on Rogan, probably Patrick Bet David, but
yeah,
like a lot, even like we said, Vlad is paying people to
I mean, it's fun.
It's hard to get people to like come to you.
It's really hard. And that's why, you know, I'm always of the mindset, like when someone says yes, if whatever day they tell me, whatever hour, do it.
Yeah.
You don't know when they're going to come around. When COVID hit, like I had, when I recorded with John and Michael, that was 2 weeks before COVID hit. Right. And I remember when Michael's agent was like, hey, we can do February or we can do April 2020. And I was like, let's just do February. I'll be there. You know, I was like, all right, fuck it, let's go. And then COVID, and if that, I might have never had him, and then you don't know who you're gonna get after. So
because that's got to be your biggest one, right?
I would, numbers wise, yeah. And then I would say numbers wise for sure. Yeah, Michael was number one. Because that kind of like did really well on YouTube. That I don't even really touch my YouTube as well.
Well, that's probably how
we just kind of started our YouTube. Yeah. YouTube's tough to build.
It's hard.
Right?
It's really hard. I wanted to start to like invest into it, like actually, like just, you know, because there are like people out there that like optimize all these algorithms, this algorithm. I don't know shit about that.
That's the thing, when you don't know anything about it, it's like overwhelming, and you feel like, oh, everyone's already built a thing.
Exactly.
But that's kind of with podcasting. I mean, we started ours, and for a while we were like, we were gonna do one with us two and Gregor.
Okay.
And then we were like, well, we can't really rely on him. Like, and then we were hesitant to do it with ourselves because I was like, I don't know, like it's like a couple's kind of corny. And then we were just like, whatever, we're both home. We do it at our house. I'm like,
exactly.
The first like 3 episodes we did on an iPhone on the record thing, and we're like, whatever, who cares?
You learn and you grow, and like, I mean, exactly that, right? Like in the beginning, I only had like audio, and I was like, let's get a video component, right? And then okay, let me get better video, and and now like I'm in the process of opening up my studio, which I'm excited about.
What do you mean by that? Opening up your studio?
So my main sponsor, I was like, hey, I kind of want to open up like my own spot, because right now the studio that I'm at is it's called Brooklyn Podcasting Studio, and it's like any show can kind of rent time there, and then he'll like kind of like,
and they produce it for you.
They record it, and then I have my own producer that does all like takes it and editing and clips, with all that stuff. But I really wanted to have like my own space, just like even higher quality cameras, mics.
You rent
so now I just signed a lease on a space, and my sponsor agreed to help me out a big chunk there.
That's awesome.
That's probably not cheap in Brooklyn.
Nothing's cheap in New York, Brooklyn, and then all the studio.
It's in Brooklyn.
It's so funny enough. Actually, I'm not gonna say exactly what I'll tell you guys off air. But it's it's in Brooklyn. Very, very close to where I live, and it's gonna be.
That's sick. You can decorate it how you want.
I can decorate. Set. I mean, I'm gonna do like, you know.
Then you're like, all right, I don't care because it's mine.
It's mine.
Yeah.
Do whatever the fuck I want, whenever I want. You know, just get all these crazy cameras. I mean, I'll invest
have artwork, cool colors. That really makes it pop.
Exactly. I have like and I also have like cool memorabilia. I have like some Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor signed poster, like limit, like all these cool things that I can kind of pimp out on my own. So I'm excited about that, and it's just gonna be like better quality, like visually. And I'm like OCD as hell, so like that perfectionism is gonna kick in. So it's just like the whole thing will be. I'm very excited to do that, and so hopefully that also helps it take to the next level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you always been like super like, okay, you went to college, but that probably didn't really. You were doing the podcast your first year in college, so how you started it wasn't from stuff you learned in college. No, you know what I mean? Honestly, of course, but people think, oh, business. Well, you're running a good business, but you're doing your own thing. Honestly, like how you we're grinding for. I mean,
you just got to keep.
I've gone to college. I know freshman year, like it's just like party, no matter what.
No, I know.
Barely just do as much as you can. Go to school. Like for you to go and just start this whole thing on your own on the side is super impressive for 19, just because of other things you're doing.
Having your own studio space, that's a big step.
That's a big step. It's a huge step for me. But I mean, exactly. Like, it was weird because in a lot of ways, like when I moved to Boston, and you know, Boston's like 4.5 hours from Brooklyn. There were so many days where I'd go from like class and I drive to New York.
Wow.
And then I'm like doing a show maybe in the morning, and then I have like an afternoon class and I'm getting back in time.
That's crazy.
I remember one time, like actually with John, he was on Good Morning America, and they wanted me and John to both be there, and they didn't really cut it well. Like I was barely featured. I was annoyed because I was like, fuck, I drove back to New York just for this.
Yeah.
But like
still cool to be there.
It was still cool because like it was a whole like set. But I remember like I had a class at 2:30 in Boston, and we finished recording at 11. I hop on a flight at like 12. I land at 1.
Wow.
Oh
and
my
I'm like in class, and I'm thinking,
I love that.
I loved like that's the shit that like that adrenaline rush is like all the time. And I'm thinking,
and don't you feel cool like no one else could grind
honestly,
like this?
And
no
it was
one
funny
can
because
do this.
it was funny because a couple of my friends in class, they had seen like my story with Good Morning America. They're like, oh, you're not gonna be like, I'll see you tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah. And they see me in class, like, bro, what? And I'm thinking, and
can't even comprehend it.
And I sit down, and I'm like, pretty cool day, you know?
Yeah,
like,
you feel really good about yourself, which you should.
Even though you're exhausted, you feel
you're
like
exhausted, but like you're like, you know what?
I know that feeling.
It's stuff
really
that you'll
well.
remember forever, you know? Like, or like if I'm like, oh, like after class going to New York to sit down with a UFC fighter, like for me that's like a sick, like I love that, you know what I mean? So it's like it's moments like that you realize are very special and unique.
Yeah.
And so yes, it's a lot of work. Like it's not easy to drive back to and from New York and Boston like in a day or two. All the time, but you know like I missed even what you're talking about like going out
trying to run
year.
it out of New York but living in Boston is
that and
difficult.
then also like sometimes if I have to like record in LA or like so like there's sacrifice like financial sacrifice, but also like there are Fridays and Saturdays where you're not going out and you're
and it sounds so easy to be like, well, of course you should. When you're 19, that's the only
19
focus.
and 20 and you're in college for a limited amount of time
and that's all everyone's doing.
And it's all everyone's and they're all like, yo, you coming out tonight? And you're like, nah, I'm back home, like I'm working, you know.
Yeah.
So, but
and in the beginning too, it's like a grind. You're not like
it's not like I'm not getting paid millions of
dollars.
Yeah. Well, still not, but you know what I mean? It's like it's not like you're you have to really like believe
you're
in it
investing
yourself.
in your time and yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to believe in it because like you're because no one else really
like,
is.
It's literally like endless, like limitless what it could be.
Right. I mean,
like I just got back from Austin. I went to Rogan.
I was going to ask you about that.
And to call it a studio is like the stupidest thing ever.
It's like how big is it?
Like a Walmart, and like probably like a quarter of it is like the sickest gym you've ever seen with like bags and every weight equipment, like hundreds of kettlebells and steel maces, but sick artwork and beautifully designed.
Saw that. I want to ask. I have many questions. Wait, so like there's only a small part that's a studio.
No, it's in a whole built like
warehouse.
Looks like a warehouse,
right?
Like
but like where he records, like it's a very kind of condensed space.
So I'll tell you, it was like massive gym. Then there's like a massive like archery range. Then there's like a full pool hall, like 3 sick
like
pool tables.
He has 3 pool tables in like a pool hall.
Yeah, full pool hall. There's industrial like gourmet kitchen with everything you think. Traeger grills, probably 4 or 5 different refrigerators like filled with elk meat. Like massive, sickest kitchen. Like it would be like the nicest restaurant's kitchen with all that shit.
So but are there people cooking?
No.
So he
this
just goes
is just for him.
It's like in case he like wants to.
He wants to make a steak or
something. If he's like, oh, if I want to have like I mean, I guess he could have like a party.
I'm sure he has friends there and like works out sometimes. Then there's like a recovery center. It's like sauna, cold splash, float tank.
So how many square feet do you think it is? Like when you
40, 50,000.
Oh, so it's like literally like
it's like a Walmart. Yeah, 50,000.
But how does he even get from like one end to the other?
It's I mean, it's whatever. You'd be in the gym or then just like you would be walking around a mall or something. But it's just for him.
That's why I said he said he had,
motivates me.
Yeah, and he said like the mat space. He has like a full Olympic size like wrestling mat with bags, and I'm like, and there's not like classes.
No classes.
He's like, no, it's just for him, and like if he wants to, he probably.
And then like you wait in the lobby,
money,
like, and it's got like the sickest like artwork and cool like pictures, and it's like fuck, man. But I mean, he's like, obviously
that's
the pinnacle,
Rogan, that's king.
It's so funny because like I think until we started our podcast, my parents probably they heard of podcasts but didn't know what it was. Like I mean, I was like, yeah, they're like, they watch everything I post and stuff. So they're like, they're like, how do I listen to this? And I showed it to them. Now they kind of get it because to explain that to someone that doesn't know, it is confusing.
But Rogan started exactly how any of us did.
Well, it's funny too. The thing that motivates me
when there was no one listening.
It motivates me as well because I'm like, Rogan, like even the technology, right? Like there's only been.
But the only thing is, there's way more competition now.
Well, now it's like everybody and their mother, is like doing anything.
Yeah.
But more people listen to it too, so exactly. It is there's more ways to get it out there.
There's more ways to get it out there, but I also think back like Rogan when he was my age, like barely fucking have phone. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you barely have phones. So I'm always thinking like I'm privileged where I can,
of course,
I have all this stuff available. So it's like,
well, it's the easiest time ever to be famous or make money.
right,
for sure. It is.
yeah. Trying to make more. You got more ways to make money.
Yeah,
I mean, that's we gotta get more rich. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that like he's king. So I mean, stuff like that motivates me. Like when you're
even
talking
like my parents are like, oh, I saw Joe Rogan was on Fox News. He's getting really big.
Yeah,
I'm
No,
like, yeah.
he's bigger than Fox
I'm like,
News.
and
he's got the biggest platform in the world.
Yeah, but like, you know, people don't watch, like, don't understand that. I'm like, no, he's way bigger than.
Have you been in the studio?
No, I haven't. I'm like, he's way bigger.
Sick.
Hopefully, I win the title and then I get on there.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I always laugh when fighters like they'll win and be like, "Can I come on?"
Yeah.
It's like,
He doesn't like that.
I'm sure he hates
He doesn't
that.
like that.
I'm sure he
You know what's
hates
funny
that.
is everyone's like, well, "Did you get a picture with him?" And I'm like, I didn't want to be like a fanboy.
Yeah.
It's like because it's so corny.
I feel
to
like you
ask
were.
No, but you were.
I didn't though.
You were there
you
with
went
a
with
small.
Gordon Ryan.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
You were there with like a small group. It's
was
not
just me
like
and
you
Gordon.
were just like at his comedy show.
He was cool.
He was cool, but like I wanted
Did
to
you
ask
talk
him
to
for
him?
a picture, but I was like,
You got scared.
I don't want him to think I'm like.
Nah,
I've done that with
fanboy.
people before where I'm like,
What?
I want to ask the picture. I remember like Halle Berry was always at Penzo's.
yeah.
We'd be like
I
in the
never asked
locker
her
room
either.
changing next to each other, and then like I'd see her day after day, and then I'm like, well, she's like training for this movie with Valentina. I'm like, fuck her. I'm like, I don't want to be like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And then she goes off
Yeah.
to train with
Yeah,
Valentina.
yeah.
This is like before
Fuck
I
off.
fought her. So I was like,
she's like best girl.
I'm like, yeah.
girlfriend.
I was like, whatever. I was like, I don't
That's
need to
so
be friends with
funny.
you guys. But same thing. I get like now. I'm like, I don't want to annoy
It's so funny
them.
because probably like people feel the same way about you guys. Like,
Yeah.
they're
Not
like,
me.
well, okay, but they're like,
People have said they're like, oh, I wanted to get, or they'll like DM me after they see me like, I saw you, I wanted to ask her. I'm like, why didn't you just
Yeah.
ask?
like the Uber drivers do that to you.
Yeah.
How
We
creepy
talked
is
about
that?
that.
that's so.
This
funny.
happened like 2 or 3 times. We've talked about it before, but where like I'll be in an Uber and like just on my phone, and then I get it home and like a little bit later I'll
Get,
look
like,
at a
message?
DM like, hey, I was your Uber driver.
Isn't that
Which
creepy?
they're like,
That's
I
so
didn't
weird.
know if it was you or I wasn't sure if it, well, you knew it was me because you DM me and told me right away. But yeah, and then they're like, oh, I didn't know what to say. I was like, and I don't respond just because I'm kind of like, well, now they know where, like they could just be being nice, super nice and like respectful, but I'm like, well, now they know where I live.
Right.
Like you never
Oh,
know.
oh, yeah.
Because they drop
I
me
think
off at
about
my
that.
house. Now sometimes I'm like, I should probably just have them drop me off down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
That's so-
crazy. Even like when we get like fan mail, I'm like, how do people know my
Comes to the
home
house
address?
lots of
No
times,
way.
yeah.
Mhm.
How do they get your address?
I don't know. They used to, most of it gets sent to the like one of the gyms
the
I go
gym.
to. But yeah.
MMA fans are fucking
Yeah.
nuts too.
Yeah.
They have. Yeah, MMA fans are off the wazoo.
Yeah. You like going to events?
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Apex is special.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Because
like,
it's more
like-
intimate.
It's more intimate and like even when you're like getting all the food, like Dana has like all the food catered in the
Mhm.
side and like the Howlerhead Whiskey Lounge, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I'm like eating next to like, you know, all these people that I
Someone
love.
just like walks by. They're like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, it's like Sean
Can you
Shelby.
pass the ketchup?
Yeah, Sean Shelby's eating his like, you know, beef next to me. I'm like, huh, what's up?
Yeah.
But
Are you going to MSG card? You think?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. that'd
You
be
guys
sick.
gonna be there?
Mhm.
You're fighting in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah. I was gonna say you should
That's
go
like the
to
best
that.
card. That's the best card
Yeah,
ever.
easier said than done.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
That's the best card ever.
I think it's the best card ever.
I think it's the best card ever. Like
Best
there's
card ever.
6 like main events.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
like
they said
Sean Brady and Bilal Muhammad is a main event,
Unreal.
100%.
Unreal.
And that's
like a really good main
bottom.
event.
That's
Yeah.
a sick main
Unreal.
event.
Yeah.
Who else? It's Beneil. Beneil's on that.
That's a main event too.
It's Beneil and
Gamrot,
Yeah.
Aljamain and TJ,
and then
O'Malley and Jan.
O'Malley and Jan. Those are all
Do
main
Bronx
events.
and Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then
You and me, Faro, like that could easily be a main event.
how are you?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
I feel good. Yeah.
She's
I feel like she's like hyped. She's like they're hyping her
they're
up.
hyping.
But like most of the like I fought Amanda Rivas, they hype her up a lot
Yeah.
too. Like I mean, it's just kind of my position. I'm like they want everyone to fight me because if they like lose to me, it's like, well, Caitlin's #1 contender. You're so
Right,
good.
right.
But if they beat me, then it's like,
It's like, oh,
then they're
she's
like,
real.
see, she beat Caitlin. Now she can fight for the title.
It's a
And I'm
tough
like,
position to be in
It's
for
a
that long, as years. Like
yeah, I've been here for like
How many UFC fights do you have?
I think this will be my 16th. Yeah.
But like most of them have been in that position.
I think only like
so you're only fighting the
Yeah.
like,
I
third
think
and
only
fourth
like
ranked people.
2 or 3 of my fights have been not top 10.
I mean, if they, right. I'm French, so but I will be rooting for you. I will
Yeah,
be-
yeah.
Of
I was
course.
why I was originally we were supposed to
We're
fight
supposed to be in Paris.
Paris.
right?
Yeah.
And she pulled out.
Yeah, I think she got injured, so they pushed it back, and then
that would have been cooler. I would have rather that.
I wanted that.
Paris.
They're like, my coach was like, why would you go
free trip to Paris?
And it just would have been badass. Like,
yeah,
because she's from there. It's the first event there. You know, I thought, I'm like, this feels like a movie. You know,
right.
And then they're like Abu Dhabi. I was like,
have you been to Abu Dhabi? Did you fight
yeah,
there?
I fought there once during COVID, but
who'd you
Jessica Andrade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't a good result. So I'm glad we're going back, but yeah, last time it was like during like 2020, so it was like we walk in and all the employees have like hazmat suits on, so it wasn't really. They're like, oh, you've been there? I'm like, not really. I've been to
now it'll be fine.
Yeah, I was like, I've been to the W Hotel there. That was it.
How do you feel about stylistically, like what the matchup brings?
I feel good. I mean, I think she's like got kind of like an annoying style, and like not a lot of. I feel like in the men's division, you see a lot of those type of fighters that have, you know, like Wonder Boy, or even if it's not
like the Taekwondo kind of background, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's only had 4 UFC fights, so it's kind of like unknown. You know what I mean? Like, she looks really.
She's strong. She looks strong.
But also like 2 out of the 3 girls are really 115ers. They're like girls that got cut right away. Like, they're girls that I'm like, well, yeah, I would have finishes if I fought them too. But that doesn't mean she's not.
Her second UFC fight was Liz Carmouche.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it was like, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, sometimes there's girls in the UFC in my division. They're like, they have the most finishes in the win. I'm like, they've never fought anyone in the top 10.
Right. Yeah.
Like, people don't there's so many like levels to the division. I'm like,
the difference between
they would
like
never even
a 20th ranked person and an 8th ranked person is like, you can't even imagine.
Right.
Yeah. So
do you feel like are you gonna call out title shot if you when you win this? You win this?
I think so. I mean, I think it's almost.
I mean, it's kind of like what? Like,
this will be my 5th fight or
5th in a row.
Yeah, 5th fight win streak. So like, there's no one else unless they, you know, do like a Santos rematch, what they haven't been mentioned.
What would you have you ever thought about if you rematch Valentina? What you would do differently?
I think I just got so much better. I mean,
so much better.
When was that?
To me,
3-4 years ago.
It
was right before COVID.
Yeah,
just 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, and I've had like 7 fights since then. Yeah. So like,
your wrestling has gotten so much.
I mean,
better.
like, I think about it now. It's funny, before when they asked me to fight that fight, I was training with John Danaher, and he suggested. I always say this. He was like, I think you should wait and ask for another fight before, and I was like, doesn't really work. I don't really have pool like that. I'm not like,
how are you gonna turn down a title shot?
I was like,
if I turn, he was like, in 2 years you'll be able to beat her.
And I was like, well, I understand what you're saying. Obviously more time, but also I'm like, I'm not like 22. Right. I was like, I've beaten everyone in the top 10. So I'm like, I can't tell UFC no. Then they'll like put me on. Right. I was like, they'll put me out for like a year. But really, a year, once the year goes by, you're like, I did get a lot better. And I don't know. I could have gone in there and won the fight, and then you know what I mean? Right. I wouldn't have thought that. And then I remember like after the fight, we were in the airport, and he was saying stuff that. The one thing like he's like, you need to work on your wrestling so you can, and like the thing he says that, and I did that, which I would have done anyway, but, and I think about it now, I'm like, I mean, I think he was totally right. Like, I'm like, totally different.
Well, also like Tyler Santos kind of, you know, exposed that she can get taken down. So especially if your wrestling has gotten better, it's
but you have to be able to defend her takedowns.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
her best performances are when she takes the person down.
For sure.
Like, people think of her as like a dynamic striker, but she's really a counter striker, but her grappling is super high level.
Well, she's like, exactly. She's also like, she's very like calculated. Like, she's not like super high.
She does the same thing every time. You know what she's going to do.
You know exactly what she's going to do. She's just very good at doing it.
Like, very like disciplined and sticking with it.
No, I'd want to see that again.
So it's kind of cool. I'm like, at first I was like, I don't know, like, you just lose to the title and you're like, it's a long road back. But I mean, like I said, with COVID, I fought so much, it went like that. And I'm like, I fought so many times since her. It feels like I just fought.
Time always goes by so fast.
Yeah.
If you ever think like, oh, it's 2 years from now, that'll be here like in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Now it feels like a normal, I win this fight and then fight her again. I'm like, well, that seems normal. You fight, win a couple more, and then get another shot. I'm like,
do you tell yourself, I want to fight a certain amount more fights or time, or?
I know. I mean, I say something, but I don't like, I think like 7, 8, 9 fights ago, I was like, this is probably my last one.
Yeah, I feel like I remember you saying that.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
Like, I don't know, I might retire.
Yeah. And then, so I'm like,
once you get to a certain level, you finally start making good money. It's hard to walk away.
That's true.
Right?
It's
You
like
wait your whole life to get in a position where you're making like,
especially if you're 14, 15 fight in, it's much better.
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
better
Now
than
I'm
your
like,
first or
one more. And then each time the fight that goes up more, I just signed a new contract like one or 2 fights ago. So I'm like, this is like, it's pretty. And the thing is, in my training, I'm still improving and doing good. If I was kind of stagnant, then maybe, or if I was like kind of unmotivated to train, like I see other fighters when they get older, it's like pulling teeth to get them to train. I'm like, they're like, all right, slow down. So I feel like if you're still doing that and making money, you got to take advantage.
Your next step to get into the MMA world, you gotta start training jiu-jitsu.
Dude, you want
to
train
start
me?
training
You
some?
should train jiu-jitsu.
You would definitely love it.
I think I would love it too.
And then that would be like one more foot in the door. Like, I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu too.
It takes some time to get purple belt, no?
Yeah, if you do it. So you
like how long? Okay.
Like I think people have more respect for like agents or managers that train. Like
like Laura Sanko trains. She's good. She's fought. She's no, but she's fought MMA before.
No, she has. I think she has a win in Invicta.
Yeah,
when she got pregnant.
Yeah.
Like Ali trains still. He's like a black belt.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think people have more respect for someone.
You don't need to.
You don't need to, but I have more respect. That's why Rogan's so respected.
Oh God.
Because he trains.
He's not like a competitor.
No, I'm not saying you have to be a competitor, but I think I recommend.
I just think you would like it.
Anyone.
I think jiu-jitsu. I really should. I should.
And jiu-jitsu is so cool because you could, when you're traveling, meeting people, it's something like, oh, I'm in California to interview this person. You're like, oh, let me stop in and train.
It's like, a legit network.
Yeah.
No, you're very right. I should.
You should.
Where's a good spot in Brooklyn? It's not like
there's Brooklyn.
Oh, there's
right. Weren't you this there?
Isn't Budokan over there?
No,
that's on Long Island.
That's where Randy trains.
That's where Randy goes.
Yeah.
I thought it's not in Brooklyn.
No, it's what is that town? Lynbrook.
Lynbrook, yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple there. What else is?
Where's Pizza Jiu-Jitsu teach?
I think there's a lot of them that I know are in Queens, but yeah, there's a Henzo Gracie in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I don't know where.
Where's Brian Glick's gym?
In the city too, right?
Yeah.
His Brian Glick's is where you should go.
Really?
Oh my God, he's the best.
Yeah.
Definitely the best.
I don't know where we don't know anything about. You show me a map like where's Brooklyn? I'm like, I don't know that way. Like I don't know anything.
You guys never come to Brooklyn?
Never. I've been to like the Barclays Center. That's it.
Really?
I went to when I was living in Jersey. I would spar at Gleason's, but literally like.
You ever spar Heather?
Yeah, a lot.
Oh, she would give me boxing. She would also violate me in the process.
Yeah.
She's funny as fuck. She's a badass.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, she would give me some private lessons. She's the best.
Yeah. I would go there to like spar her and a couple of the other girls there, but like literally go to the gym and leave. I didn't experience anything.
Yeah. It's just you feel like
it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And you feel like you're in like the 90s era of boxing.
Yeah.
Still,
a lot of boxing gyms are like
all
that.
like
I used
that.
to go
No
to
air
one in
conditioning,
Philadelphia. It was called Joe Hands. I think it closed now, but
the place I used to go to in Jersey, it was like it was in Newark, and it was Patterson.
It's like kind of shitty floors
Patterson.
and
It's
stuff.
so gross. Yeah. Like it's disgusting.
No, all those places are disgusting.
Yeah,
but
and they're like, "Oh, we'll
charming.
walk you." I'm parked right outside. They would have to like walk me to my car. I'm like, "It's noon." And they're like, "No, we're walking to your car." I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "I'm parked right there."
That's funny.
Yeah. You should try doing like commentating at like in New York. There's so many like big regional things.
I want to. I'd also want to do commentating like football. Like there's a lot of other sports, and I think that even just the opportunities would be way more if I did that. The MMA,
because you like all sports.
I love all sports, but I like the MMA. I would love, but again, it kind of goes back to like if I'm someone who I love to work, and then like once an opportunity comes, I'm going to take it and try to build and build. But I know that like if I were at a level where perhaps like something UFC related was that next step, then it just feels like in a way, unfortunately, it would become competition with those people, and I don't want to.
I don't think you should think about it like that.
That's like you're being too nice.
Maybe.
Yeah, way too nice.
But at the same time, if it's not Anik, it's Brendan. If it's not Brendan, it's
they're adding more.
Man. That's
right.
they're
adding more people all the time.
Like I would because I speak fluent French, so like I would if they do like
oh my god,
if they do like a Contender Series France or like a UFC France shows, whatever. I mean, you know, I don't know how creative they'll probably get creative with it. Big. That I would do, you know.
They have like Valentina does whenever they're in like South America, she's like because she speaks like such good Spanish or like she's good at like she can speak like 4 different languages. They have her like when they're in I think they were in Argentina, they have her on the panel, not like on the fight panel, but you know the interview stuff.
Yeah, no.
And they're expanding where they're gonna have so many shows, so many people. They can't have all the same people.
No, you're right. You're right. So yeah, I mean,
I can't be like that would be like all of us being like Joe Rogan has a podcast, so we can't do it.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think you
the only thing that would hold me back from stuff like that is like I have such bad like imposter syndrome.
I have that too.
Do you?
I'm just like, damn, like I don't know why the fuck.
It doesn't seem like you do.
Really?
I mean, no, because you're confident that like you said, you don't have a natural audience. You're just like a college kid, but then you're like reach out to all these big time. I'm always like insecure. I'm like, well, why would they come on mine?
No, I always feel this.
I have imposter syndrome with a lot of things. Like sometimes I don't.
What's like your big one? Like
even like trainings. Like Gordon wanted me to go down and train him for wrestling this week, and I'm like, fuck, man, I can't wrestle Gordon anymore. He's like young and so good. Like I don't want to waste his time.
That's
but
so
he obviously knows it's good training for him. He wouldn't ask you if it wasn't good.
Like, he could get someone better. Like I always think that.
Interesting.
I always think that, and I wish I didn't, but. That's what's interesting when like a young person who's like natural audience, like without a natural audience can build something from nothing.
Right.
Like,
I don't know.
It's impressive. It doesn't seem that you have an imposter syndrome.
I just always like whenever I think like, whenever I hear people say, like, oh, like I listen to this, or like same thing. I'm like, you listen? Like,
you forget people listen,
like,
right?
People listen or sometimes actually the only time I've ever, or kind of like 1.5 times that someone recognized me was actually I was in UFC. I was in London for Patty's card, the March one. Yeah. And I hear someone say like Felix, and I'm like, and I turn around, I was like, I didn't recognize. I'm like, yeah, and they're like, are you Felix? Like they're like, are you Felix? Like I watch your stuff, and I thought it was a prank. I was like, what the fuck? I'm like,
but you got to understand that now.
I was like, that's so.
You have a pretty big following.
It was so no, but at that point I was like, this is so cool. Like people actually like listen, you know. So like I don't know, but I just think also it's good in a way. It's good to have a little bit of imposter syndrome because it like keeps you working. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like it keeps you feeling like
we
keeps
talk
you
about
humble.
that all the time.
It keeps you humble and it keeps you working. Like for me, like the day that I think that I'm the shit, I'm fucked.
You know what I mean? You have to hate yourself.
You have to, exactly. You gotta be insecure.
I say that constantly.
You gotta be insecure. You gotta kind of hate yourself. You gotta be like, I ain't shit. Like there's so many better people. What you're saying, like, why would you want to wrestle me? Like, you got to tell yourself like, there's so many better people than me. You know what I mean? In a way, because it keeps you going.
Or like if once you start having some success or like having something. Fuck no, we're broke. And this dude has fucking 30 houses. This guy,
and that's why I think honestly, like Rogan, I think he's smart. He can understand that he's at a level, right? But I think at the same time, like I that's why it always makes me happy whenever I see him bring on like a smaller comic or a smaller
so cool.
He brings people up,
you know, and he literally blows people, like he changes people's lives, and I think that's something like I want to do. Like I hope one day I have a platform where I can do that as well. Yeah, where it's like because that
you're still doing what you love, but you're also can help other people. Love,
and like and like at the end of the day, that's kind of like probably the most gratifying thing. You know, like him being able to change like a young like comic who's making shit money and like blow them up and like give them a stage. Like even like an Andrew Schultz who was not at some point, like I don't know if you guys are familiar with Andrew Schultz.
Of course.
Yeah.
We love comedy.
Yeah, me too. All types of comedy. Like Schultz was like, he was successful before, but then like Rogan was like this guy, because he wasn't a kid. This guy is really like, he's special. And like, and Schultz, I mean, everything that Schultz has done is deserved because of what he does. But I'm saying like Rogan, like, and I'm sure if you ask Schultz, he'd probably say the same. It's Rogan was like really wanted to help him take like take him to the next level. Him basically. Yeah, mentor him and like show him like, dude, you have everything. So it's like, it's stuff like that I think at the end of the day, like when you die, you're going to think about how many lives did I change and how many, you know, the gratifying moments. And I think that stuff is way more, you know, feels so much better than anything else.
That's awesome.
You know, I mean, like, I don't want to be on my deathbed thinking I'm the shit.
Yeah.
Right?
You're gonna be like, I ain't shit.
I ain't
just
shit.
End it now.
Just kill me. Fuck it.
That's definitely something Kyle would be like. You know what Kyle always says? He's like, I'm not gonna live past like, what do you say, like 60?
You think?
I don't know. Yeah.
No way, dude. You can't leave Caitlyn.
Yeah, right. No, I'm like, I hope you last longer than
Caitlyn
that.
and Pablo.
Yeah. So
No.
So right now, where can people find you at?
So on Instagram at Felix. I spilled so much water on it.
It's all right.
like a
We only
pig.
got some of the YouTube people will see it.
On Instagram at felix.levine. Podcast, just search my name on anywhere stream podcast.
It's a good
YouTube.
name of your podcast too.
Where's this going?
Yeah.
It's weird. I kind of get like
It's a good
icked
name.
out by it though.
Why?
I don't know. Because whenever I tell people, they're like, what?
Where's this going?
Yeah.
I think,
But it's
isn't
cool.
Jerry Seinfeld has a book called "Is
really?
This Something?" Like in terms of like material.
Yeah.
Is this something? It's kind of like the same.
But it was
type of
always,
thing.
I always did it without the they're like, oh, it's with a question mark. And I always put it without a question mark just because like in a way, it sounds like kind of corny, but in a way, like I had a feeling like I knew that like for me, it's like kind of like a double meaning where like, where's this going? Like A, I don't know where the conversation's going, but B, because there's no question mark, I kind of like, it's more like a statement, like it's going somewhere, or, you know, like the show is going, or I'm, all right, you know, maybe it's like hopeful thinking that like I'm hopefully going somewhere. So like it was,
That's cool. Yeah.
so like that's kind of was behind it at 19 years old. But if I had to do it today, I'd probably pick something else.
I think it's good. I think it's a good name.
Yeah, I
Where's
like
this
it.
going? Yeah.
So we're holding on to it for. I mean, can't really change it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on my pod, your podcast
That's sweet.
apps.
Thank you.
Of you, Tim Ferriss,
Damn.
the Ninja Rob podcast, which is one of my favorites.
Uh-huh.
You know
I'm
the
honored.
Ninja Rob podcast?
I don't.
Oh, it's a great MMA podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
What it just MMA, everything MMA.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'll
great.
have to check it out. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
MMA podcasts.
Rogan, Tim Ferriss,
Damn.
and James Altucher. You know James Altucher podcast?
Oh, I've heard. Yeah.
Ah, dude, he's amazing. You'd love him.
Really?
Amazing.
Okay.
So
I'll have to check
smart.
them out. There's so many. It's literally. I mean, I love like just in the car, especially you're in the car all the time.
Yeah.
Me too.
Listen to you on the
Yeah.
on the belt today. So yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah,
No.
I'm always trying to find new ones because sometimes I'm like, all right, I'll get obsessed with one and I only listen to one at a
Yeah,
time,
no,
and
you
then
gotta-
I'm like,
you
I'm
gotta-
over it.
It's cool though because
That's why I was bummed when I ran out of your shit, the mob
With
stuff.
the mob
You
stuff.
were
Sorry, I'm
on
done.
that
There's
for
some
a
good-
The
while.
last thing I want to talk to you
Yes.
about, the last thing before we'll let you go, but the one guy I think is the funniest of all the mobsters is
Gene
Gianni
Varela.
Russo.
Oh,
Do you know his stuff?
I've heard of him. I haven't really looked at
Oh
him.
my God. When you have some time, he's been on Vlad 2
Okay.
times. It's the most hilarious thing you've ever watched. I've watched him like a couple times.
Is he the one you said like you think lies all the
He
time?
lies nonstop. He
No,
said he
a
like
lot of these guys.
he
Yeah.
lost his virginity to Marilyn Monroe. He was involved
I'm like,
in
that's
the
like, I know
Kennedy
nothing about these guys, but that's like
assassination.
so extreme.
Oh
It's
my-
like the lies.
Yeah, and I'm dating Kendall Jenner.
The
Yeah.
lies are like the most insane shit ever. He said he was 16 years old and he lost his virginity to Marilyn Monroe.
I mean, come on. Come on. And see, that stuff is tough.
You have to watch his.
Yeah, but that's
you
like
have to
pure
watch it.
entertainment because then you.
I wish you saw that.
But
We
then
could
you
talk
can't.
about
Then
it.
you can't take him serious. Seriously, like.
Yeah. Tenny might be saying
He-
stuff that's true, but you don't believe
He
it.
says he
something.
killed. He was had polio and he was in the hospital, and a guy tried to molest him, and he stabbed him with a broomstick that he whittled,
Dude,
and he killed him.
this is the
And
issue
Vlad
with
was like, "I didn't see any articles on this." He's like, "Oh, they would never let that out. They threw him right in the
That's so
dumpster." And I'm like, "What?"
The mafia. Stuff
He's like
is-
90 years old, but
Yeah.
it's hilarious.
He's like he has like his hair's all dyed and
Yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
I know what he looks
It's
like. Yeah.
hilarious. You have to watch his stuff.
I might have to. The thing about the mob stuff is like I've done so many hours of it now.
Are you a
right?
little like burnt out of
I'm
it?
so, like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
I get like some. I got a few guys who are like, hey, like former guy, like mob guys, like, hey, like I want to. I was like, look, with all due respect, I can't
Right.
hear
Yeah.
another like. I
It's just
can't
like like mind garbage.
It's
kind of.
literally
but it's so
mind garbage.
fun,
and it,
but it's just
the
garbage.
scary thing too is like a lot of the people. So it's funny because there's the brand of people like you and me that like eat it up, and then there's like
Mhm.
the brand of people that like they live for it, like
Mhm.
The
and
comments and
it's like a little concerning how much they love it,
Yeah.
and I'm like, dude, get over it.
Yeah.
Like it's been done for 20 years now,
Mhm.
and it's never coming
but
back the
there's
same
still
way.
people who pretend to be in the mafia, right?
I mean, there's
But I think they run
there
like
is-
card games.
They run
right?
like card games and like there's
Like
too
a
many
book.
cameras.
They run a
There's-
book.
Yeah, they run a
Yeah.
book. Okay, I know
Yeah.
like 10 people that run
Right,
a book.
right.
You know what I mean? So like,
But I think that's what it is now, like a card game.
it's like that, but it's like it's not even remotely close
Mhm.
to what it
No.
was, and like people need to get it. Like they need to understand that, and
they're not running Vegas.
They're not running Vegas.
Yeah.
There's too
it's
many
all corporate,
cameras.
and it's all corporate.
It's all corporate. There's no like no show union jobs
Right,
anymore.
right.
There's no let's control the whole meat and seafood markets of
Right,
and every
right.
port in New York. Like I'm sure there's like little things here and there. But people gotta
like people. We had a house. We had to get like some tenants out of it, And they're like, well, you should just call someone and have them go there, throw them out. I'm like, dude, it's not 1985. Like, you have to pay them to
Everyone
leave.
says that. Like they were worried they were gonna be like squatting, and first thing anyone says, they're like, I would just have someone go beat them up. I'm like, oh, you would? I'm like, do you know how easy that is to say that? Or they're like, I would just shut the water off
in like 1985, right?
Yeah, probably like 95.
Yeah, I mean, the stories that John would tell me, like on the record and off the record, just me fucking crazy. Like, you know, like honestly, it makes you in a way like kind of wish like you had a guy like that today. You know, just like I have an issue. Let me just call somebody really quick.
We're like, well, we'll negotiate and pay cash for keys, you know?
No, back in the day, it's like, I'll break your kneecap or you get the fuck out. Like, you're out of there quick.
Yeah, those must have been better times.
But it's the cameras. It's the cameras that fucked everything up.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. I mean, everything. You know, your license plates.
The cameras and internet.
The internet. You can't rob.
You can't even like be mean to them. Like, get the fuck out.
Yeah. You can't do it.
You can't like give someone a dirty look because then
microaggression.
Yeah,
microaggression.
Yeah, you're not including
you say
people.
that to a mobster back then.
Right.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thanks so much for coming out, man.
We really appreciate it.
Thank both of you. I'm honored to be a part of it, and I'm happy to meet you guys.
Yeah.
Fully.
This is awesome.
So if you ever need anything about the MMA world, whatever, we're pretty valuable.
For sure.
Contact,
For sure. We'll have to do a little training session.
Yeah, definitely.
You gotta start training jiu-jitsu though.
I know. Well, you guys gotta teach me some of the basics.
Yeah.
Well, Zane's the best teacher.
Really?
Yeah.
He
teaches the Stony Brook Jiu-Jitsu club.
Oh shit.
You're
at Stony Brook
program.
Yeah. Oh, so, do you know Well, I'll tell you. I'll ask you after. Well, thank you guys.
Well, thank you guys. Like, subscribe, follow us, and we'll see you next week.